Hey, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna talk about top 5
best ice cream makers.
Starting at number 5.
Cuisinart ICE 100. Most ice cream makers can freeze a batch in an hour or less. If you don't count the full day the bowl has to chill beforehand. Yes, you could keep the bowl in the freezer, but it takes up a lot of space. The Cuisinart ICE 100 has an onboard compressor, which means there's no pre-freezing required. It lets you make ice cream on a whim whenever you'd like, but the trade-off is that compressor ice cream makers are quite a bit more expensive than units with a basic motor and a freezable bowl. The Cuisinart ICE 100 is a great base-level compressor unit, a workhorse that freezes a quart-and-a-half batch in an hour or less. Its single churning speed is fairly slow, which was a good thing in our sorbet test. We got a very smooth and fruit-forward strawberry sorbet, and it was ready in 41 minutes. The manual recommends a full hour for sorbet. We were monitoring the machine and decided to stop it early. With ice cream, we got to a soft serve-like consistency in 36 minutes, and then we tossed in the Oreo crumbles to mix in thoroughly in about 30 seconds. Both test batches firmed up to a more scoopable texture after a couple of hours in the freezer, though freezing overnight produced some significant ice crystals.
Coming at number 4.
Nostalgia Electric Ice. Long ago, even before the freezer was invented, it was still possible to make ice cream at home. You just needed a bucket of ice and salt, a hand crank, and lots of muscle power. The salt is there to melt the ice and lower the freezing point of the liquid. This machine replicates that method, complete with a wooden bucket, though it thankfully electrifies the crank part. The Nostalgia model is fun for its, well, nostalgia, but it also features a huge capacity of up to a gallon of ice cream per batch. While we tested this ice cream maker, we found that you need to get the salt and ice layering just right for best results, which is unfortunate as there aren't very specific instructions included on how much of each to use. We'd suggest starting with at least 8 pounds of ice and 3 cups of salt, and make sure the interior container is flush with the bottom as you load up ice and salt around the sides. We got pretty good results in both of our tests, with lots of sorbet and ice cream that tasted great but were a bit soft and inconsistent in texture. The contraption did a great job mixing in the cookie bits evenly and thoroughly, although it's a bit of a pain to stop and detach the motor, add the mix-ins, and then put it back on again.
At number 3.
Breville Smart Scoop. If you're ready to get serious about making ice cream, the Smart Scoop offers lots of functionality for its steep price tag. Most importantly, it has its own compressor, just like a full-size freezer or air conditioner, and chills the bowl while it churns. After the ice cream is done, it'll even hold it at the perfect scooping temperature for up to 3 hours. You can pre-freeze the bowl just like with other models, but you can also set the machine to chill the bowl for you while you prepare your ice cream or sorbet base. And you don't have to worry about refreezing the bowl between batches, which is a boon as the machine can only make about a quart at a time, and a batch can take nearly an hour to freeze. When it comes to settings, the Smart Scoop offers pinpoint control. There are 12 different hardness settings calibrated for different types of frozen desserts, whether you need a scoop of vanilla that will hold up in a root beer float or a softer sorbet to cannelle atop a slice of pie. Internal thermometers measure the mixture, with the internal compressor adjusting to make sure the temperature stays just right. Unfortunately, there aren't speed settings and no slower churn for gelato.
Number 2 of my list.
Cuisinart Ice Cream. The process is simple and designed to be mess-free. The double insulated freezer bowl fits into the base, the mixing paddle fits into that, and the plastic cover holds everything together. You pour in your base mixture, and as the bowl spins, the paddle scrapes a layer of frozen material off the interior wall, incorporating it back into the mixture. After about 20 minutes, you get fully churned ice cream. To add mix-ins, you just toss them into the bowl when the batch is almost done spinning. There's only one setting, one blade, and no timers to worry about. In testing, our ice cream and sorbet both had even textures, albeit a bit softer and more soft-serve-like than some other machines. Sticking the finished products in the freezer for a couple of hours firmed them up, but they retained their smoothness and scoopability. The main catch, though, is that you need a pre-frozen bowl, and this machine's is pretty bulky. If you want to be able to make ice cream at the drop of a hat, it has to live in the freezer all the time, and it'll take up a lot of room. This model has a smaller capacity than some of Cuisinart's other ice cream makers, so be mindful of batch size when you're following recipes and scale down accordingly. We didn't do the math quite right and got a little overflow in one test. Also, none of the parts are dishwasher safe, but they're also unlikely to need much more than a rinse.
And number 1.
Ninja NC501 CREAMi. While most ice cream makers freeze the liquid base while whipping in air at the same time, the Ninja CREAMi starts with a jar of frozen base and uses a special blender blade-like creamerizer paddle to give it a proper smooth and velvety texture. The unusual method made our lab's team of trained chefs and experienced home cooks suspicious, but in the end, the TikTok-famous gadget turned out to be the best ice cream machine we've ever used. With both sorbet and ice cream, the CREAMi Deluxe produced a firm and consistently textured product, with no ice crystals or unspun base built up in the corners of the container. Both were ready to eat and perfect straight out of the machine. After 2 hours of refreezing, the ice cream maintained its texture exactly, and the sorbet was still pretty good, a bit denser than we'd like, with a few ice crystals on top. The actual whipping process with the CREAMi Deluxe takes just over 5 minutes, but you do have to prepare the base and freeze it overnight first. Each of the two included cups has a maximum fill line for the base at about 1.5 pints, which turns into roughly a quart of the finished product. That's a decent amount, but making fresh ice cream on demand for a huge group isn't really feasible.
Check out this video description for latest price and more informations. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and stay tuned.